Welcome to the Blue Cafe. We offer stories of infidelity, betrayal, and redemption. Please like and subscribe. Cheers. Now, on to today's story. I feel so conflicted about divorcing BPD partner who is now seeking treatment. My wife and I have been on the slow road to divorce after I discovered her affair last November. As time went on, more and more information came out that made the affair worse than originally described, and it was also revealed that emotional affairs, at least, have happened periodically throughout our 5 years together. Nearly 3 weeks ago, I told her I was filing for divorce, and she was served about a week ago. After a few days, she began a major Hoover attempt, suddenly discarding her affair partner who she had reached out to, yet again, less than 30 minutes after I told her I would be filing. After several long, tearful, exhausting conversations, I actually managed to get her to consider BPD as an explanation for her miserable feelings and maladaptive behaviors. She has an upcoming session with a DBT-trained therapist who specializes in BPD. The conflict arises from the amount of self-work I have been doing since last year. I went from seriously considering reconciliation to accepting that my wife has been abusive to me for 5 years and will likely never change. But now she is seeking treatment for BPD. This is, theoretically, the thing that would save our marriage. However, I have been processing everything, all of these years of insanity and the horrible handling of this affair, and came to the conclusion to leave. I don't want to blame inertia or laziness, but it is hard for me to feel that I want to stay now, even though she suddenly seems to be on exactly the right track. She kept me up last night begging, crying, and throwing a pity party, one she rightfully earned, about how unfair it is that she only now discovered the likely cause of her life's misery and pain and the source of her toxic behavior. She lamented all the horrible things she has done to me, explaining clearly and thoroughly how her BPD influenced her awful behavior by using specific examples that popped into her head. It was surreal hearing her describe the nonsensical thought processes behind decisions and actions that hurt me mentally and emotionally, hearing her describe how working on her emotional regulation would have prevented it and will prevent it in the future after she begins making progress. She abused me for years. She cheated on me. She lied, gaslighted, manipulated, triangulated, name-called, tore me down, and so many other things. She basically destroyed me with this affair and the ducking bullshit mind-ducking way she handled it. But now she might get the exact help she needs. She might recover. Or she might fall off the bandwagon, and I will have wasted more years with a very broken person. I love her and care about her. I want her to be well. I want so much for her to live a life free of all the anguish she constantly feels. It isn't my responsibility to fix her or even see her through this, but I did make a vow to stay with her through sickness and health. However, she made a vow to me to be faithful, and she broke that vow. God damn it, do you all see where I am coming from? I told her I need time to think about this before making another huge decision, but I could really use any helpful advice. Thank you for taking the time to read. I've been through an affair. I don't think you ever get over it. I wasted almost a year trying to work with my wife and finally pulled the plug. She went right back to the same guy. Good for you for filing for divorce. Try to stick with it. Follow through. An affair is a death blow. It's not your fault. I agree. I thought that I was the person that would walk away from a relationship if I was cheated on. I was wrong. I stayed even though it wasn't a good thing for me. My ex-WBPD cheated and had relationships on the side for 4 years. As recently as today, she is still claiming that I was the one cheating. Well, I completely disagree. I know and believe that I was faithful to my own standards for any relationship. Infidelity is a relationship killer. I don't believe that I can ever see her as anything other than a cheater. I've tried. I've really, really tried. I didn't want it to be a death blow, but I think I agree with you. In 2019 I found out that my wife of 20 years was cheating. One domino fell and the whole world imploded. Affairs with men for 15 years. Affairs with women for 5+. Dozens of affairs. Lying. Manipulating. Blaming me. It was hell. I filed. She went from "you're crazy" to "it was just 4 affairs" to "the women don't count" to having the police show up when she hit me in front of our son pleading for me to reconcile. During the divorce, when the pandemic hit, she admitted most of it and begged me back. She promised she would change. That she saw it now. I told her she couldn't change her BPD, but I would try once more for our son. She need constant therapy alone and we need serious couples therapy. Within 24 hours of her promising never to contact her affair partners, she was talking with her girlfriend in secret. It took a week for her to break down, after getting caught in lies and admit it. Within a month she was contacting multiple women and flirting. 3 months she secretly contacted a prostitute and started sleeping around again. Within 6 months she was sneaking off to hotels during her work hours, saying her visits to motels were for our son, during a pandemic. The entire time she was lying to me. She knew I was watching her every move. Yet, she couldn't help it and did it anyway. That's what BPD is. Your wife is incapable of telling the truth. She will say or do anything to keep you. But her behavior will change momentarily, returning back to the old. She is mentally unwell. I'm begging you, don't be me. Do not get back together. Do not listen to a professional liar. I learned the hard way. If she wants to change, she had the opportunity 5 years ago. She had that opportunity in November. Only now is she taking it on, temporarily. BPD takes 5+ years of constant therapy at best to see a change. Can you endure double this length on the pure hope she might follow her word for once? You took a vow. She violated it. That is all you need to move on. You were her husband, not her live-in whipping boy. Some mistakes can never be forgiven, even if done by someone unwell. Wishing you strength and happiness ahead. Your wife is incapable of telling the truth. She will say or do anything to keep you. This is my primary concern. My trust in her is already obliterated, but there is some part of me that wants to take this plea seriously because it contains the key ingredient of treating the BPD. But even the way she has gone about it has been so typical, even going so far as to pin the responsibility of her even being able to succeed on me. In other words, if I divorce her, she will never get well, but only with me staying with her does she have a chance. It's like the manipulation never ducking ends. Some mistakes can never be forgiven, even if done by someone unwell. This is what I have been communicating to her, but it doesn't help. It only makes each of us feel bad, though in different ways from one another. I understand. I really do. She's future faking. Promising that tomorrow she'll be who you always wanted her to be. Who wouldn't find that alluring? What's another 6 months, right? What if? I spent 15 years in that mode. Waiting for one of the promises to stick. The question is, how much time are you willing to knowingly waste? If you can set a time, start the clock, and never change it, then go for it. But most partners of BPD are insanely codependent and put their partner to the front of the line instead of their own needs. Because we've been manipulated into it. Notice a trend in your response, you expressing how much pain her affair has caused you and her claiming to be the victim in every direction. What absolute bullshit. Again, my hope isn't to simplify. Last year I was working hard to get my ex help, believing the same as you. I wouldn't have listened either. I had to see my ex fail when given a choice she didn't deserve. I left my wife. Grey rocked. No contact, only for kids through a court-monitored tool. And I can't stress enough how joyful it has been. Laughter. Safety. Relaxation. Relationships. Hope. The world bloomed, because it was not my disorder. Painful but needed commiseration. I too think it is bullshit, but my brain is just tripping on trying to do what's right, which I know is just an artifact of my upbringing. Doing what's right in this case, hard a pill as it is for me to swallow, is to take care of myself and my needs. I already feel I've wasted so much time. STBX, actually, I guess, contacted AP within a half hour of leaving after hearing I felt the marriage was done. Rant edit 2, the title thus continues, and that I would be serving her papers. I could write a whole ducking book about this stuck up experience, but I'll briefly recap for context. Found out about 1 to 2 week emotional affair in November. Found out it was physical but not intimate in early December, and it was only then that the affair actually ended and WS went North Carolina with AP. But then my WS reached out December 23rd. A new commitment to reconciliation was then made. I found out the affair involved sex the day before Valentine's Day, February 13th. WS said it was a one-off and disappointing. First week of April I learned sex happened more than once, described by WS as less than 3 times initially, WTF. Middle of April, the AP reaches out to WS, and WS changes numbers to show how little AP means. That weekend, WS leaves after a fight and contacts AP within the hour. I find out the next day after WS comes home and demand to know WTF WS wants. WS says I am the one, the AP means nothing, it was a moment of weakness, etc. Another new commitment to reconciliation. I found out a month ago that WS reached out to AP at the beginning of May and kept contact through the first week of June. After finally accepting the past almost a year for what it is and what it means, I decide I need to GTFO. I decided a week and a half ago that I don't think this is ever going to actually get better in a meaningful way. I still have hope though because I am an idiot, just self-deprecation for humor, don't believe that, but we have a fight on Sunday. WS asks point blank if I even want to stay married, and I say I don't. WS leaves around 1:30 to 1:45 p.m., says goodbye to our daughter but otherwise doesn't give any information. WS comes back around 9 p.m. that night. I just looked at phone records because, well, why not? And lo and behold, WS contacted AP at 1:56 p.m. that day. Took less than a half an hour. My point in sharing this is to denote how some people choose people for the wrong reasons, and you have to allow yourself to accept the reality of the person you chose no matter how difficult it is. My WS was going on and on about the turnaround and changes she has made the last month and how she thought she would really prove herself over the next year, and then contacting her AP within the half hour. That is not a good person, and I chose poorly, though I would argue I was working with incomplete and fabricated information from the get-go, therefore I don't hold it against myself but also am glad to have grown in significant ways as a result of all of this. If your WS is treating you poorly and has an affair, please leave now. For your own health, physically, mentally, and emotionally. Even if you are a resilient person, full of self-awareness and self-efficacy and introspection, you are subjecting yourself to unnecessary suffering in hopes for something that is probably astronomically unlikely to occur. This recap turned out a lot longer of a post than I anticipated. Sorry for the horrible present tense and subjectless presentation. I was really trying to get these thoughts out as quickly as possible. TLDR, allow yourself to accept what you perceive to be true as the actual truth. Trust your gut early. Pay attention and thereby save yourself time and hurt. Edit, BTW. I think this is my first actual post here, but I have been subscribed and reading all of your stories since I first found out back in November. I also subscribed to /RSN after infidelity and read half a dozen books related to what was going on, including both pro-reconciliation and reconciliation skeptical views, while scouring YouTube and Wikipedia for other useful information, while also going to IC and CC, yup. I feel that this sub provides a lot of important perspectives that help validate and unmind the experiences of others like me. So thanks for being there for me and with me all this time. Well written. I think another mistake a lot of BSs make is the decision to commit to reconciliation too early. It's like they are saying you hurt me bad, but I'm still here, which allows WS to keep a foot in both relationships. My advice is always to file for divorce immediately if it's a full-blown affair. Start there. If WS does everything right, and BS takes the time to evaluate, they can always stop the divorce process. I agree with filing for divorce at the very start. Gather what evidence you have, even if it is incomplete. Protect your assets. Tell family and friends you and your WS are heading for a divorce. And ask them to let the two of you deal with this. Depending on where you live, there are options. Your attorney will advise. Separate from her, she definitely cannot tell the truth. Playing this out over nearly a year is not doing your mental health any good. The divorce will take months to finalize. I may not necessarily agree with filing for divorce in every situation, but I could get behind the idea of truly separating, i.e., separate domiciles. Whatever the case, showing the WS there are real consequences and giving yourself time to evaluate, like you say, are invaluable to making the best decisions, and don't rush yourself. It's okay to take time with such a big decision, but you also need to protect yourself. I wish reconciliation hadn't been my default. It's obviously, to me, a result of my upbringing, but it certainly led to me enduring a lot more pain than was actually necessary. Woke up to 43 unread text messages. At least she said she will be moving out, right? No one in the world could ever understand the batshit craziness of being with a PWBPD other than people that have been there. I had 80 unanswered calls in a few hours a few months ago. Over the last 48 hours, I have probably received 200 or so texts. And it's back and forth splitting, back and forth begging for me to stay and telling me I never loved her. I also took a screenshot for posterity, and to counter your too often true point. 1 year after D-Day post-separation 1 year ago today, I accidentally discovered an intimate text message conversation between my wife and her lover. I've gone through God knows how many different revisions of the depth of my wife's betrayal, all the while discovering and learning more about myself than what feels like the rest of my life combined. One of the most important things I've learned is that behaviors I brushed aside as rough patches or bad arguments were actually abuse. When our couples counselor told me on more than one occasion that it was okay if I wanted to leave, I thought she just saw reconciliation as helpless. No. She was legitimately worried about me being in a horrible and abusive relationship. Even when my personal therapist began to describe certain stories as me having been abused, it still didn't really click. But I've grown so much. I've learned so much. My feelings evolved from wanting reconciliation, to accepting that that was impossible, to hating her for all she was and did, to simply being frustrated by having to deal with such a horrible person on the regular for the next 16 years. We have a kid. I thought today was going to be really sucky for me like some other related anniversaries were, but I've actually been okay. Sure, I've thought about it. I've thought about how I was immediately lied to. I've thought about all the ducked up shit she put me through even just this past year. But it is what it is. I get to reflect and see that I'm not the same person I was a year ago. I don't think she can say the same. Our divorce will hopefully be settled in 3 months, and I look forward to the bright future that I know I have without having a cheater in my life. Congrats for your clarity. Get the settlement and move into your way brighter future. It does get better if you allow it to. If you set healthier boundaries and advocate for yourself and child more. I highly encourage you to use a co-parenting app with this one. It can help minimize the contact when it's recorded through the app. Yours seems to be wearing their mental health like a crutch rather than getting the help they need. Do your best to protect the child from her behavior. Thanks for recommending the use of an app. I will seriously do all I can to protect my kid. As it is, my STBX has left my daughter and I so many times without a hint of her whereabouts or ETA back home. I know I'm already solidifying myself as the stable parent, the reliable parent, the one my child can depend on. Yeah, on the right path, keep going, keep us updated, okay? Great job on the growth. Hopefully as things get better it will become easier. Thanks for the kudos. I am already noticing bit by bit how things are becoming easier. Her moving out has likely been the biggest boon to my emotional and mental state. You were lucky to find a couples counselor who didn't take the cheating wife's side. I think after enough sessions where the cheating wife blows up over nothing and yells at everyone and says a whole bunch of terrible shit to me, that the therapist starts to see what's really going on. She couldn't even be civil long enough to pull the wool over someone's eyes. I can't remember if you've touched on it, but she sounds a bit cuckoo. I told her I thought she has borderline personality disorder, and she has clung to it like gospel truth despite not getting verified as such by a psychiatrist. It has since become her mantra that I am abusing her by leaving her knowing she has this mental illness. One thing that is for certain is that she lies like it's nobody's business. She will lie about things that I 100% remember being different. I will show her screenshots from her supporting my position and invalidating hers. She will say the pictures I'm sending are blurry. She has also admitted she doesn't have empathy. She tried to explain it away once while also stating empathy had suddenly come to her like an epiphany once she realized her lack thereof's root cause. That root cause had already changed once, and it would change again later. Take that as you will. In essence, I think she is some kind of blend of cluster B personality disorders, notably borderline, narcissistic, and antisocial personality disorders. She also exhibits narcissism and psychopathy of dark triad fame and has created some psychologically torturous situations for me that arguably showcase a level of sadism. I thought she was begging for reconciliation. Who was she kidding? So she agreed for divorce? And why she wanted reconciliation in the first place when she kept going back to her AP through the last year after D-Day? I wish I ducking knew. She was begging for reconciliation. Even now, as she has one or more boy toys at her disposal, but not AP. He didn't want her. Turns out, she continues to push the narrative that she doesn't want divorce. Even as she, on average, flips out at me via text. Great, thanks for the evidence, psycho, once per week, meaning 10+ messages in a row of concentrated verbal abuse. She says she doesn't want the divorce. The point in time when she really decided to commit to reconciliation was after she was officially let down by the AP. She had a conversation for an hour or two on the phone with him, I learned later. Then she was suddenly wanting to take a fresh crack at reconciliation. She suddenly gained all kinds of insights into why she was such a shitty partner and person, told me how learning this will help her show just how much she can change and stop being abusive. I remained skeptical, which turned out to be wise because she was soon back to the exact same antics as before. We got into a fight. She said we're through. I agreed. She said there was no hope, and I agreed. She said we should end the marriage, and I agreed again. After months of randomly threatening to file this coming Monday, she said in this instance that I had to file. I said I would. I did. But like I said, she continues to act like she was, and always will be opposed to the divorce. Cake eater, I guess. Good riddance for you, op. I don't even care anymore in that I had to come to peace a while ago with the notion that I would never have closure on so very many things. We hope you have enjoyed today's episode. Please comment, like and subscribe. Cheers. Have a wonderful day or night, wherever you are.